Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna show you how to draw Korosensei's face. Here are what you need to make it. A pencil, an eraser, a pen, paint brushes, and paints obviously, palettes, a compass to make the circles, a piece of paper, and a reference picture. It's optional but it's recommended. The first step is to take out your compass and pencil and start making a circle out of it. Take your time, don't rush it so it looks good, and make sure it's big enough so that you won't have any trouble while painting it. Now, we're gonna ink it with this pen. For this part, you need to make sure that you're inking it slowly and carefully so that you'll get a best result. You can make a clean circle, just like Korosensei's face. But if you're unable to do that, then that's fine, there's no problem in it. Korosensei will still accept it just the way it is. And there we go, it's done. And now we're gonna start making the eyes, the small little eyes. We're gonna make it just a little bit above the half of it, and we're not gonna make it too big, because his eyes are just kind of like dots. And also make sure that you're making the eyes symmetrical, just like how it is. When you're satisfied with the eyes, we're gonna start making the smile. A wide smile, a big smile. A smile that can brighten anyone's day. A smile we'll never forget. It's such a beautiful smile. And take your time. Just take your time because this part can be very tricky, especially in the curves and in the corners. Make sure that you don't rush it so that the smile can remain as beautiful as it's supposed to be. But if you don't have the time or the energy, then it's fine. Korosensei will still accept it just the way it is. Okay, so now we're gonna make the teeth. There are about 9 lines in it, and we're gonna do our best to make it proportional. And voila, it's done. Now we're gonna start using this pen to ink it. Now just like before, we're gonna do it neatly, slowly, and carefully. So now that we're done with it, we're gonna use the eraser to remove the pencil markings. Also, make sure that you wait for the ink to dry because it might smudge. Just do it gently so that you don't wrinkle the paper and not accidentally erase the memories we've made together with Korosensei. So now we're gonna get to the painting part. The first thing you should do is to wet and dry your paintbrushes. But make sure not to over dry it, just keep it damp so that you can use your paint more efficiently. See, just like that. There we go. Okay, so next we're gonna put the yellow paint onto the palette. Prepare a palette. Make sure you don't put way too much paint in it because paint is expensive. Just put it just enough. Okay? Don't waste paint. There we go. So now we're gonna start painting. You take your bigger brush and use it for the wider part. Wet it just a little bit, just in case it's getting dry. And now we're gonna put some paint on the face. Paint it carefully and slowly so that you don't accidentally get paint on his eyes and teeth. Korosensei's eyes and teeth are plain white, so let's just keep that in mind. Now for the narrower part, we're gonna use the smaller brush so that we don't accidentally mess anything up. If you plan on to make a cutout out of it, then feel free to color outside of the circle, but if you don't plan to cut it out, then do your best to just paint inside the circle. But if you can't do it, then that's fine. It's still good. There's no problem with it. Korosensei will accept it just the way it is and he'll appreciate it. This part is optional, but you can give it a second layer just to make the colors more thick, more bright, more bold. It looks better that way, to be honest, because you won't see any white spots from the paper. So even if it's optional, I do highly recommend you to give it a second layer. So as you can see, we're done. Now I'm just gonna get rid of this, let it dry, and prepare my black paint. As I said before, don't don't use too much because paint is expensive, so don't waste it. So after that, we're just gonna mix the yellow and black together. Don't put in too much black because if you put in too much black, then you'll get an ugly yellow, and we don't want an ugly yellow, we want dark yellow. So here, I'm just gonna add some red because I just realized that I won't get dark yellow. So I'm gonna put in some red, not too much, because if you put too much red, you'll get orange. We don't want orange, we want dark yellow. If you're wondering what the dark yellow is for, then I'm gonna tell you. The dark yellow is gonna be for the darker shade, because Korosensei's face, his head, is not entirely a circle, it's a sphere. So it's gonna have light and dark shade. Now, this part is actually pretty tricky, so just take your time. Don't rush it because you might just put paint where you don't want any paint to be. This is a darker shade, so it's very noticeable if you mess it up. Just concentrate. You can look at your reference picture if you have one, just like what I'm doing right now. So, yeah, just keep doing your best. This might be hard. Don't push yourself. Take it easy, but take it. So now that we're done with it, the next step is just gonna get rid of it and let it dry while we wash our paintbrushes gently. Do not abuse your paintbrushes. You can tell that your paintbrush is already clean if you use it on your hand and it doesn't leave any mark. Now you're gonna have to take out your white paint and put it on the palette. I've said this a lot before, but I'm gonna say it again. Don't waste your paint, it's expensive. Take some yellow paint and put it just right there, and then take some white, just enough, so that you can have a bright yellow. Keep adding yellow or white until it reaches your color target, whatever you want to call it. If you're wondering what are we going to use this bright yellow for, well, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to use this bright yellow for this. You're going to have to put a bright shade on his head because, as I said before, his head is a sphere. It's a three-dimensional thing. You see, it has a dark and a bright shade. So, yeah, just make it. Feel free to look at your reference picture as much as you want. As long as you get a good result, you'll be satisfied. And just like that, we're done. So now we're just gonna get rid of that and that, and make sure you clean your paintbrush cleanly, like very cleanly, because you don't wanna leave some residue on your brush hair, which will probably damage your brush. You wanna keep it in its best quality. There we go. So this part is optional. You can re-ink your picture slash painting, but you don't need to like ink the whole thing. You just need to ink some parts. It's just so that the paint doesn't cover the lines. So it looks prettier, it looks neater. There you have it. It's done. You did great. I'm proud of you.